I need to spend 15 seconds. I'm not going to hypnotize you, so don't worry. Close your eyes, sit back, and I want you to think of a strong emotion, something that made you either very, very happy, very, very sad, or very, very angry. Just 10 seconds. Close your eyes and think. Okay, hypnotism over. You know, emotions in human beings are very strong. And they bring out either the best in us or they bring out the worst in us. When I was in school, when I was very young, and I looked at my friends, I always felt that their world was perfect and mine was not, for reasons. Today I have a very different opinion because I believe that the perfect state doesn't exist. I believe that perfection is a myth. I believe that perfection is that elusive pot of gold at the end of the mythical rainbow. It's there, but it's not there. You want it, but you can't get it. It's a shadow of no use. And I believe that the more you chase perfection, the more you're going to be depressed, disappointed, dejected. You're going to beat yourself up about it. If you look around, there are hundreds and thousands of gurus all over the world, millions of books, dozens of TV programs, all telling us how to be perfect. The perfect wife, the perfect figure, like mine, the perfect relationships, the perfect job, the perfect career, the perfect diet. And you try, and you try, and you try, and you fail for obvious reasons. I believe that the perfect state doesn't exist. So don't worry. I believe that instead of chasing perfection, you need to chase excellence. Because excellence means something. Excellence is personal. Excellence is something you do for yourself. The high standards that you set for yourself. Perfection, on the other hand, is what others expect of you. That's the difference. So the choice this evening is yours to think. Do I want to continue chasing perfection, or should I strive to better myself and be excellent for nobody else in this world, but for myself? You see, we are human. We are human and we are full of flaws. And it doesn't matter. So don't beat yourself up over it. I've stopped doing that ages ago. I do it for myself. Let me take you back to when I was 13. Now 13 is not my unlucky number. I'm not superstitious. In fact, it's good for me. I was 13 and I was in a boys' school in Allahabad, my hometown. I was very thin. I was very weak. And I was very popular. But there was one issue. I had a teacher. I had a teacher who didn't like me, and he didn't like my family. And when I heard that he was going to be my class teacher for a particular year, boom, 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 my heart was beating. And so he walks into class, and he knew me. And to set the record straight, let me tell you something else. I was brought up by a single parent, my mother. And this teacher knew it because my mother worked in the same school. And so he walked into the class, and then he started asking each person where their father worked. And as he went down the line, boom, boom, boom. And then he came to me and he looked at me very close, and he says, Michael, where does your father work? For a 13-year-old, today I'm smiling, but for a 13-year-old, that was embarrassing, that was frightening, and that was something I didn't have an answer for. And I looked at him and said, sir, my father works in the railway. Now, I had an uncle who worked in the railway, and so my 13-year-old mind conjured up an image of somebody who was not there. But that was not all. He looked at me and said, that's nice, sit down. And every time he came to class after that, I cringed in fear and anxiety as to what would he say. My academics were in a mess. And then one day he dropped a bombshell. He said, Michael, the next time I need a railway reservation, I'm going to ask you to ask your father. I'm leaving you to imagine what I felt. I felt beaten, I felt defeated, and I wished that the ground opened up and I could fall in. My academics in a mess, emotional in a mess, my mind in a mess. I was 13. Strangely, a month or two after that, he left the school. I don't know how, and I still wonder how or why did he leave school. But he had done the damage. He had done the damage. I failed that year in almost every subject, and I had to leave that school because I was determined not to repeat over there. But I learned something from that experience and from some other experiences in my life. Number one, if you are weak and timid in life, you will be crushed. I repeat, if you're weak and timid in life, you will be crushed. Stand up and be bold. Number two, giving up is not the option. Giving up is for the weak. Decide what you want to be. Decide what you want to be. Are you going to be strong and stand up and say, count me in? Or are you going to give up? I didn't give up. And today I stand proudly saying, that imperfect world at that time at 13 made me the man I am today. And I'm proud of it. Let me tell you another story, very different. I told you I was brought up by my mother. Until 50, I hadn't met my dad. And when I came to Millennium School, I got the opportunity to visit the UK. And my daughter, who's very much into all this family stuff, says, you better meet your dad. And so we had a few phone calls, very cordial. And we decided that when I came to the UK, we'd meet. So I'm going to cut a long story short. That night, I didn't sleep. To say that I rested would be an understatement. Boom, boom, boom. Worried, apprehensive, excited. Think of the situation. Put yourself in that situation. And then I dressed early in the morning at 7. He was going to come at 10. And I waited. And then I got a call which I had been waiting for. Mr. Guzder, there's a gentleman down here. And he says, it's your father. I hadn't heard that statement in my life. And I went to the top of the steps in the hotel. And I looked down. That's him there. And I said, oh my God. And I went down and we hugged and we kissed and we laughed and there were tears and time stood still. Time stood still. For me, I felt that the earth had stopped rotating on its axis. I was filled with emotion, with joy. Here was my father who I hadn't ever met. And we sat and we talked for about 4 or 5 hours over a meal and over some drinks. We had 50 years of catching up to do. And I've met him many times after that. He's a wonderful human being, as wonderful as my mother was. But sometimes people don't get on. And we enjoyed that morning. And I thought to myself, that imperfect world and all that worry and frustration over. Here, happiness, joy, exhilaration. As I told you, hugs and kisses and laughter. And that's the message for today. This is an imperfect world. We are imperfect beings. We have our flaws, as I told you, but we are human. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I are going to have these moments in this world. Perfect or imperfect, the choice is yours. The sad times where you're going to be frustrated, disappointed, and there are going to be tears, tears of sorrow, where your heart will beat and you say, why me? Where you'll cry and say, what's wrong with this world? What's wrong with me? Put that aside. There are going to be those exhilarating moments where you're going to say, wow, the aha moments, where you're going to enjoy yourself, where you're going to smile, and you're going to hope that they come again and again and again. That's life. What you take from it, the experiences you learn from it, will decide your future. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful